Come on now. When have I ever steered you wrong?
I mean, to be honest, actually, okay. To be honest, I. It's strange that I see you actually making predictions because you're usually a habitual fence sitter.
That is true.
That's I guess that's why it's strange to agree with you because I'm thinking something's up here. Something's gone. A smoke ban alongside the double hard destruction removal.
Okay. I mean, I've seen a lot more smoke bans as of late. Quite surprisingly, it's actually been quite an up and coming ban.
Is that, I ask you, a target against Alamau?
Alamau was someone that we did not get a real chance to mention just in the pre-show. Alamau, for me, is one of the brightest up-and-coming stars of this region. I think he's shown that on countless occasions. I think he had, a great tournament for himself at Invite. I think everyone was really impressed. I think he was able to gain a very big following off the back of that also. So he is a very popular player across every region. I know that a lot of EU guys, a lot of NA guys are big fans of Alamau. A lot of people respect how this guy plays Siege, and it's a very, very scary way. Guy is insane mechanical skills. The quick peek that he has is incredible. Is it going to be a target ban to say? I'm not sure if you can really target ban this guy, Fluke.
I think you're just trying to remove an SMG from his hands. I think that's the sort of game that they're playing. Picking up Ella instead is a bit of a different route.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Ella, as of course you know,
Yeah.
and the weapon that Alamau chose is the correct one.
Positioning-wise, is the correct one. Is that fair enough to say? Is that...
I think Ella at the moment is a very scary operator. Like, I think everyone's scared of that weapon. Because it is, in my opinion, the strongest shotgun in the game.
Yeah, even post-nerf.
Yeah, like second to none. Like, that thing will chunk you to bits. Like, the rapid fire rate that you just pull it, bang, 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 bang. It is insane. And look at him right now. Alamau knows that he's in, this is perfect. This is a perfect area for the shotgun to do damage. And look what's just happened.
Okay. You know why I said the shotgun depends on where it is? Yeah, that's what I meant. That sort of positioning with that sort of shotgun, the fact that they could spark around the corner and get that early body, the other place that you're potentially looking at for that sort of gun, I don't think it would massively handle around Harry Potter at the bottom of the tower stairs. I think that might be a little bit too awkward of a firefight. But here on the swing round as well, if that's where they're going to reposition him, just on the actual corner of the freezer itself, to make sure that there's nothing that can try and cook them out of here. There's the mirror window for the intel, but at the same time, it's a very dangerous approach. That Habana's going to have to do a little bit of bodywork here.
Losing Flores is a massive operator for Furia. I mean, that operator is the pinnacle of clearing out blue. I've never seen an operator clear out blue as easy as what Flores can do. And also with the lack of mute being shown by Team 1, it just makes that operator so much more tasty to pick. And yeah, losing that right off the rip, it will cause some issues.
Rare is trying to force this body just out of the connector here around the opposite side. E-Box is becoming a big point of fascination as they've been able to weaken some of the attention off on the opposite side of Laundry. They're kind of steadying themselves. They have loads of time. They're making sure they utilize all of that to drone out, get the intel. Elbows still hold by the reverse shield, and they've entirely calculated themselves here around this fight. They've realized push that mirror window past the other canisters that might otherwise be played in the C4s. It's too dangerous, so let's try and take them around the back stairs.
So now they will try and enter in towards blue, but like I said, without the Flores drones, they really lack in the utility, and with a minute to go, this doesn't leave them a lot of time. Ideally, they should have been in this position about a minute ago, and yeah, they're really going to struggle with the time, and whenever there are still, C4s on the side of Team 1, it's going to be even more difficult for them to try and swing in and try and get that diffuser down, but there's a lot of pressure coming in from Freeze as Rare has managed to slip his way in, but KDS shuts down most of his teammates. And there's Lagones on the flip side, able to clean up house, and Team 1, a very convincing round.
Yeah, as you said, they sort of tried to go with an alternate take there. They set themselves up after the loss of the Flores in a alternate position. They didn't think that they could muscle their way through. They potentially tried to, I guess, bait all the intel and say, listen, we're going for this launch take. We've got some bodies on freezer. They couldn't get close enough with the mirror window there. It was a little bit of that balance of, well, how do we put this? Alongside, you're sort of looking, how can they try and get rid of that? Well, if you fire those X-Kairos, there's going to be someone round on the hook of Freezer towards the door, so they're just going to shoot those off. You can't get the clarity there. It's too awkward, too difficult. But, I mean, I guess that they just sort of picked up sticks, went for an alternate, and it didn't quite work out. Is the politest way of putting it. The Monty on the board, instead of Hibana, instead of what was your sole hard destruction here for Dorms?
Ella Shotgun, once again, the Titan Killer, makes its return for Alamau, and I think Alamau, he's happy enough just to sit here, use the shotgun to the best of its ability, and really make Furia work big time for any control. You actually see him, he's using it as their real way of doing the self-destruction. Obviously, you know, we touched upon the smoke ban. Was it targeted towards Alamau? We know that smoke is great operator just for the gadget, being able to delay a lot of time and try and get some kills, do some damage, whatever it is. But we know the utility, you know, the setup that you need from that shotgun is second to none. And, you know, Alamau happy enough to do that with the other shotgun.
I mean, it doesn't leave you a huge amount in pocket, but it doesn't take a huge amount to kill. The thing about that is it fires quick. And if you sort of find yourself a little bit lost in the source, we saw how he did. You always have to deep dive.
He's got 29 bullets. Like, that is
29 bullets.
That's
Yeah,
more than
sure.
enough.
But it was about 6 or 7 to get the 1 kill before. You're sort of positioning yourself. Sure.
30 divided by 6. There's 5. 5 kills, an ace!
I mean, if anyone might be able to ace with the Titan Killer, the Ella Shotgun, it could be you or it could be Alamau. 2 players, a similar level, but Rare on his birthday. It's 19th birthday today. Happy birthday, Rare.
19. Young boy.
Okay. You know, pro, quick reflexes. And with the Monty, I guess you're trying to use those to the best of your ability. Concerned about C4s over the top of the trophy wall from Attic. There's a very deep shield there on the swing. They're making sure that if anything gets opened on the far side after that drone, they can get the instant response. But here again, Furia, they're just sort of trying to find the intel, prodding.
I mean, Monty makes a lot of sense with a smoke ban. You know, one of the big counters to Monty, of course, is smoke. If you try and push in, you're going to get obliterated. And I'm not entirely sure what Fury were thinking. They've tried to go for the quick plant right on the trophy door, but it just hasn't worked for them. Fantasy has now jumped in. He's inside kids. He's missing his shots, but will finish off. But here comes Alamau with a shotgun. That thing rains and hits them so hard. Alamau with a pistol as well. Oh, dearie me. Alamau is on one today, and it's only round 2.
I mean, that Monty play did not work. You know what they were trying to do, sure. But the smokes hadn't even begun to pop. The only one that had was on the clear on kids' dorms. They know that there was a swing round there from Foosball. They still hadn't had the drive up Attic to get that solidity and the cross across the top. It was just charging into a hold. And it was charging into a hold that's set up entirely to fight off against you. Sure, they don't have a smoke, but they have multiple angles. And you didn't have anything to try and stop that. Alamau!
Wow.
He locks it off as if he's one of those players that's smurfing ranked that you always get that hits with the Ella pistol.
This is not the start that you want for Furia. Not only have you lost 2 rounds, but you've also now gave Alamau a lot of confidence in himself right now.
I think he came into this with a lot of confidence.
But the fact that he's just swung 2
it's
with a
made
pistol
him,
and you know, killed them as easy.
Yeah.
You know, the guy's hitting every shot. And, yeah, it's not bode well for Furia. Furia, very, very risky and a little bit confusing, right? Fair enough going for a Monty and trying to plant a trophy door. We've seen that before, and it's worked. But why didn't they open up the main wall? Like, why are they not checking these certain positions? They're trying to rush it incredibly fast, and it just hasn't paid off for them.
They had a Thatcher on the board as well. And I think that's the sort of big drive there is, sure, you're playing against a Mute. They opted against their hard destruction, even though they're still bringing the Thatcher. Yeah, you can sort of try and brute force some of those positions and some of those plays, but you have to do a bit of the groundwork first. And, okay, if you're not going to bring hard destruction, if you're going to completely ignore walk-in, and you're generally going to ignore the Attic as well, but to be fair, they hit the Attic just 5 seconds later, then you've got to do something underneath. You've got to try and put some pressure somewhere else, draw some focus away, because otherwise it's a single door, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to shut that.
Okay. So, Furia, things have not worked for you, and you've switched off the Monty. Looking at their setup, it's fairly fairly standard, Fluke. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I suppose you could make a pitch for, double self-destruction, buck, and sledge. You could argue is, what's the point of bringing both on a map like Oregon, and especially for this bomb site, which isn't too heavy with self-destruction, I want to say. So you definitely could maybe bring in that. I think that Flores would have been a great pick for them, especially if they're expecting this bomb site. Whenever a lot of players will try and hold in towards the showers, that's where we could see Flores be a massive pick.
Yes, entirely. I think, Flores being dropped early was a disaster for that round, and you can't sort of pull away from that because of the potential that he can offer.
Yeah, it happens.
And you've got to always still believe in what he can do, because the drive that he can do, the sort of force of positioning can be the big play. Fantasy is able to get the first there. Leve was sort of caught and cornered, and KDS wanted to offer some support but couldn't quite get there. They've been able to get this opener. They're able to try and isolate some of the push here. They're driving themselves to do the bodywork before that we sort of said they didn't pay enough attention to, but Neskin is there to get some revenge on the back line. There's a double window with a bit of attention. There's an Alamau with a C4 though, just underneath.
Yeah, very surprising that Levy has went for that swing whenever he really didn't need to. KDS, that's a great peek through the Habana holes, and that is finished off rare. The birthday boy goes down, and now KDS is getting even more aggressive as he rotates into Kids, but no, Miracle is ready for him and shuts him down. They know exactly where Neskin is, and Neskin's doing a great job at wasting time, but will get caught. Not enough HP to tank those shots, and well, that's him going to go down. Alamau perhaps trying to bait Neskin. Hoping for someone to jump in the double window, but nope, Neskin has been finished off by Heist, but Alamau still happy enough to play from below. A C4 will go off, but nothing comes off that, so 2 versus 3. And well, Alamau, the way he's been playing at the moment, Fluke, definitely clutchable.
That's it. You're sort of still looking at what's left to do. There's a C4 in the pocket. Alamau's going for a big rotation around the backside of Zulu. Is he going to go upstairs? No. He's going to set himself up around split and have a little bit more caution before the approach starts to come through. I say he instantly goes back round. He's trying to find the angle in the fight with 30 seconds. Lagonas puts them into a good stead. FURIA is trying to find this final hurdle, but it's Alamau that gets the drop down. 20 seconds, one body on the split side of shower. They know where he's coming in from, but it's not there because that gate would have killed Miracle if he tried to take the hot hop through it. So instead, he's got to go the long way around. That leads you to the back of a dining room with a split angle and a Banshee ready to scream as soon as you make this entrance. That'll give the game away. 5 seconds, and you still got to try and stick a diffuser down. And Alamau has the Overwatch.
Team 1 being gifted a very easy round that they've been able to come back from. A little bit confused with how FURIA were dealing in that 2 versus 3 situation. All over the place, and a real lack of trades going on. We had one player upstairs in Kids by himself, then we had another one come in small tower, gets picked off, and then we see a hatch drop, he gets picked off, and then there's a Thatcher outside, doing very little. I think at that time, FURIA, they've got what they wanted, which is that upstairs control. They've got the Kids. Why are they not then utilizing the soft destruction, clearing out Alamau from server, and then simply going for an easy kitchen drop that we see so often? I don't know, it looks as if FURIA were trying to do too much, and they didn't really have a lot to do it in.
Yeah, I think it becomes that sort of conversation that we've had a little bit about FURIA's approaches here. It's always tough to weigh up the decisions that you want to put together. It's always tough to sort of construct a take, especially obviously last time we were here, they lost the body early. But here is sort of one of the easiest examples of okay, well, they went for a take, then they pulled themselves back off, and they entirely lifted themselves up. In that way, they almost funneled themselves into all of the defensive setups that had been put down by Team 1. They hit all of the stuff that was on the Laundry Freezer side, and then went and hit all the stuff that was on the Pillar and the Blue side. In that regard, they found themselves not really clearing too much of it there. They'd got the best start possible. They'd put some aggression above. They'd started trying to get some of the control there, but they still didn't have... They still felt like they wanted to do more elsewhere. They need to try and, I guess, minimize the extra work and get themselves a little bit more locked in and focused on what they're doing on the site rather than what Team 1 are doing.
So Monty is here once again. He wasn't brought for the basement. Now he will be brought, and also we're seeing that Flores once again. Lenda just has to not die. Just keep the utility and clear out the blue if that's what they're going to go for. Monty being used actually in the room clear department, which, as we know, it is a great thing to have, Luke. We actually don't see it that often.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, I guess, it was the discussion around Monty was, I think as Pengu was saying, he's a very tough operator to play, which is why you don't see him too much, and why, when he's brought by a team that's good at it, it becomes a big problem, because you're not used to seeing it. It's not that people don't know how to defend against it, but you don't see it so often that you sort of, it's a little bit rusty, and being able to manipulate a Monty in a good way around that factor, if you don't really see it too much, is always potential, I think.
A great multiplayer is something that is extremely rare to find, and whenever we find a great one, it's terrifying. It really is. We see Monty's, cripple teams. We see a team who's really struggling in the defense. They get then on the attack, and all of a sudden they've just struggled. And Alamau, dear Lord, he's something else. He really is.
It's just another way of opening this up. 8-0. If you wanted a bit of a school of why we highlighted this player as a big potential one to come through, here he is. Has a bit of the cover. The Monty doesn't have any himself as it starts to swing around the back. Fantasy gets Neskin. Levy's trying to offer some support, but there it is. Alamau with one. Is he going to try and stick on for one more? The mirror shows up and offers some support. The pop round the corner doesn't quite get the reward it otherwise wanted. Rebuilds, restructures, and redefines his position behind the shield. KDS with the drop on the back stairs doesn't last too long. Fantasy is continually driving them, as I said at the start. A player who didn't have the best day over this tournament so far is a very important one to show up if FURIA want to try and bring this together.
A lot of pressure on Lagones to win that engagement, but does not. Fantasy is still alive and in a great position. He's battled back the mirror. Alamau holding down to blue. Will go for the swing, and down goes Fantasy. A 2 versus 2. Alamau is 10-0 right now, double digits without taking a single death. Lender will try and stick, and here comes Alamau once again, but no, Lender will finally finish him off. Lagones in a 1 versus 2. 10 seconds, Lender. Back in the diffuser, we'll try and stick it. No C4, Lagones has to go for the swing. The cover is there from blue. This should be an easy one for FURIA. Lagones runs out of ammo, has to fall back. The flashbang's being tossed out. Doesn't have the ammo reloaded. Has the shotgun, and he's just getting toyed with by Landa. FURIA finally respond, but oh, Fluke, it was not clean. It was not clean at all.
If we're going to talk about what you think is the best shotgun in the game, I think the ITA is the worst shotgun in the game.
Well,
I think...
Is it a real shotgun, though? It's not a real shotgun. And
I mean, outside, I think under 2 feet, it's a shotgun. Outside of that, it's a display model.
I like to call it a secondary, I mean, unless we see the big ITA come out, I don't really know if we can judge it, but when have you ever seen... When have you ever seen the big ITA in a real competitive match? You've never...
Does Me Invitational count?
No.
Tournaments count?
No.
Okay, then not
it's actually an interesting one, if that weapon's ever actually been played.
I mean... You would have to consult the archives. You would have to throw yourself back.
Is that stat noted down anywhere? I don't know if that's even a stat people would...
Consult Siege GG. Mm-hmm. Get your best person on it. Yeah, okay, you don't see it too often. But, alright, it was good from FURIA. They were able to fight in. And I think that was a part of what I wanted to see from them.
Yeah.
Sure, the diffuser was going down late, but look at how they pushed it. They dedicated themselves to a take. They dedicated themselves to half of the site, half of the control. The opening engagement went against them, but they kept pushing. They kept driving themselves through. They're a great team, but they just needed that confidence to pull off the execute.
The only thing I do worry about FURIA is Fantasy played extremely well. If they lose Fantasy early on, where do they go from there? Because now we're kind of getting into the territory where, they're relying on one player making these big moves, and if that is a game plan they're going for, it's not going to get them very far. So, yeah, I think for FURIA, they need to try and get their refrags down a lot more. We looked at the round where they attacked the meeting and, the dining and kitchen bomb site, and they were really lacking the refrags. If they can fix that and they can be a lot more tight-knit whenever they're actually going for these pushes into, players like Alamau, players into KDS who are very aggressive in how they do their holds, they will have a much better shot of winning this map.
Well, waiting now for this approach to start to come through from FURIA. They've set themselves up with the same sort of build they had before, but obviously the big difference is that Monty is gone. That's going to make that cost and that burn around the corner much tougher to pull off. So they've gone with a little bit of extension here. We'll hear that being put up and utilize this as a moment to drive themselves with the cover of their own audio through around the corner. A bigger, wider clear and a little bit of a cheeky angle. Gets the first, but the instant pickup means the trade is punished.
Alamau happy enough to sit behind that shield and just wait for the push to come in, but will be pushed out by the utility. Flashes and nades will clear out that shield on Alamau. Has to fall back to the safety of sight. KDS has not been dealt with as of yet. He's still happy enough to play aggressive on this blue door, and you hear the banner pellets go down. We'll start to open up in towards E-Box. KDS looking for a little bit of aggression. There's Alamau again, and oh, the shotgun. How many times do we have to say Alamau and the shotgun is just unstoppable today?
It's 12-1. 12-1, and he doesn't look like he wants to stop yet. Rare, yet again, they opened this in a 4 versus 1 situation. They're able to at least find one, but they had a lot less time previously. Now they're in this sort of angle and an engagement possibility of, well, it doesn't last much longer. Alamau said he wanted more, and he finds it. What a nightmare.
Wow, Team 1 steam rolling ahead, a 4-1 lead at the moment, and they still have another defense. FURIA, is it the shotgun? Is this the issue? Is this the wall that they're up against? This is very unusual because there aren't too many occasions where I can really pinpoint a team losing down to an aggressive shotgun player.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time that a player has been that brave and that bold and that brazen with a shotgun this continually. Like, you'll see it maybe 1-2 rounds. Like, a famously aggressive player will jump in with a shotgun from position. But here, being in this situation and pulling it off so repeatedly, it's tough. It's tough to find a response to.
Top floor is where we head to once again, and FURIA, last time they had an attack up here, it was very confusing. Trying to go for a quick plant right at the trophy door without really anything being checked was very surprising, and it did not work for them. I would like to see FURIA play this round just a little bit more slow. I mean, this bomb site, from an attacker perspective, is fairly simple. You can gain control very easily of, your main breach. Bedroom isn't usually an area that we see defenders hold that firm. And then from there, it's just more of a case of opening up angles, putting a bit of pressure here or there, and finally moving in for an execute.
The spray starts to come through now, and they're just trying to see if they can get a 4-2 on the split, which, to be fair, wouldn't be the biggest nightmare so far. The real thing that's keeping them up so far is trying to get some semblance of control of the players, of the space inside what Team 1 are playing, because, to be fair, Team 1, they're not early on going for these huge plays, these huge rotations. They're not pushing themselves too far off the map or onto the site. Sure, they've gone for these rotations late game sometimes, but otherwise, they're quite happy to sit around the area that they want to hold. They'll move inside of it, but they're satisfied with the circle of control that they have, and FURIA has just struggled to sort of find their way through.
Team 1 have that opening engagement. It's a FURIA trying to put pressure from below in towards that kitchen, and Fantasy, oh no! Neskin is ready for him and puts him right back from whence he came. FURIA, this is crumbling for them, and Fluke, I have to highlight, the refrags are not there.
No, that's 2 kills that have been punished by a single person. That's, I guess now is just sort of trying to think, how can they bring this together? You still see that they're in 3 very different situations. They're in 3 entirely different angles. They still are in a situation where they might be able to get an instant swing round depending on the movements. They have the entrance. At least it comes through. Neskin's gone, but without vertical control, well, they're not going to get any deeper. They're not really going to be able to put any pressure upstairs against those windows, so they can't try and put pressure from underneath. Still, now, a minute on, and they're going to go for the big rotation, finally find themselves up to the site and the story that it's on itself, prepping for the run out and concern that might be paid towards the bottom of the white stairs. I'm assuming we're going to see an attempt through Trophy to just try and strong-arm it, but, well, apart from maybe a gift of Alamau here, who's dancing very dangerously, but to be fair, when you're 13-1, do whatever you want.
FURIA 30 seconds have only just began to open up in towards bedroom, and KDS is waiting for the miracle goes down. Rare sees the man shimmy across and will end up eliminating KDS, but with 15 seconds, look where Heise is on the other end of the bomb site. Rare with a sliver of HP has to walk into Trophy, has to walk into a shotgun. Alamau is ready for him. Here comes the swing, but no, Rare will actually win that engagement against the shotgun, but with 5 seconds they go, has to find more! A 1 versus 1 now, Rare, can he finish him off? Legones plays the time perfectly, and Team 1 take a 5-1 split in the first half.
It was deserved, and that's the sort of worrying thing right now, is what we have to have is a heck of a team talk in the FURIA camp. A heck of a moment for them to try and pull themselves back together, because that was the Team 1 show. It was a lot of those rounds sort of falling into the favor. The only one that went FURIA's way was definitely a FURIA round. It was definitely the one where they had that control. They had that drive. They were able to find their way through onto the site, because outside of that, I wouldn't really say Team 1 were massively stressed, apart from maybe one other round. When they were attacking onto the tertiary site, it was just a good performance, and they've really got to sort of step themselves up here and see if they can find something, because otherwise, I mean, Oregon we knew was going to be a good map for Team 1, but a great map means that that second one is going to have so much more pressure on it.
So, FURIA over now on the defense. They start with their basement hold. Valkyrie makes an appearance. Usually an operator that is banned out quite frequently on a map like Oregon. I think the information that you can gain, and some very, very strong ones that you can kind of hide away in corners that aren't checked all too often, are very, very strong. So, yeah, Valkyrie expects her being chosen quite a bit by FURIA. I know they're a team that rely very heavily on a lot of information, and they'll try and coordinate that into some of their swings, and hopefully they can show us, you know, really what they're made of on the defense, because I want to see more refrags, because they're just letting the man advantage get away from them.
I think that's entirely it. I think that they'll be built into a little bit with their defenses. They'll have some more solidity. Alamau's now obviously on a different role, and they've got to try and drive their way through. Talking of the chance at refrags, they're instantly trying to lead with a bit of aggression here, but KDS is going for the pull and the pick from the opposite side. Alamau has hopped in on the kitchen corridor with some pings coming around that they know that there's a body round on the bottom, but they actually find the fight before the drone finds them instead, get some clarity elsewhere. I'm curious if they've got replays around the tower to make sure that they have some comfort there at least, but look, instantly the FURIA bodies have gone off the hold that they had on the top. They've entirely peeled themselves away from the aggression that they wanted to do inside meeting, and from just what was one aggressive firefight, that roam game, that chance has entirely been cleared away.
Team 1 straight in to open up these hatches and making good time. Only a minute gone. 2 minutes still to go. Where do they want to formulate their push from? That is the question. Are they going to try and push in towards E-Bucks, or maybe trying to go for the laundry side? I'm not entirely sure right now. Looks as if they're just trying to eye up their options. You can see them on their drone trying to figure out what side is the weakest. Hey, maybe they might just try and push every angle.
Well, it's trying to, I guess, get some semblance of control, because if that's one thing that I talked about from FURIA struggling with where they wanted to end up their push here, Team 1, they're weighing up their options now. They still have all their bodies, and took a bit of a deep dive there. Neskin got close enough to be hit by the mute jammer, but they know that somebody's paying firm attention to this swing, and they don't want to take it by themselves. They're waiting for the pressure from T1 as well to start to come down. That tower has to be a bit of a big play. You assume there's one on E-Box, and you can just see the outline. They're droning and keeping that angle control. They're going to make sure that they can force these bodies away a lot of time, and it's still a drive. The pops of the flash and the swing around the opposite side. The Goyo shield goes down on the crook of the elbow. They haven't been able to move a body in just yet, but they have yet again been able to clear them away. Whether they know it or not is the tell.
Bonus. Moving in towards elbow, which they do have control of. has 4 Habana pellets, can maybe try and open up a line of sight somewhere. But, yeah, not much to make a full breach with. It looks as if, yeah, they will be opening up some angles in towards that cross, and that's going to give them quite an easy time of denying anyone as they try and swing from Freezer to deny this plant. So, it is going to be a very, very scrappy round for Team 1. 20 seconds to go, and here comes the drops.
There it is, and there they go. The first one goes to Fantasy's way. He's going to make sure he picks up to get the backside here. The push is coming from E-Box and flat across the top. They're trying to get control of the elbow, but they're just going to drive themselves through Lagonis all the way towards the default plant spot. They don't have many bodies, and they definitely don't have the cover. That goes just perfectly. Leaves Alamar with only a couple of seconds. Not enough to find any of the bodies. Survives, but that moment was a lot of sort of weighing it up. A final attempt on the executing the push. Without being able to catch a player or a body, they found themselves just a bit overwhelmed in that final fight.
Yeah, 5v5 in 20 seconds. Not what you really want from an attacking perspective. I think Team 1 were probably expecting to get at least a pick or 2 picks and then try and go from there. I don't think they were ready for dealing with a full 5-man FURIA anchor where they were playing very passive, very safe, giving Team 1 absolutely nothing. So yeah, that round has worked out very well for FURIA. They know their bounds, they know their limits, and they were happy enough to fall back and play very, very heavy on site.
Okay, that's a Ying in the hands of Alamau, and that's potentially the break that they might be able to utilize. We did see some bodies get flashed on the approach round, and we saw FURIA at least able to control themselves. They were quick to move out of the way of Team 1, wisely. It paid off in that final engagement, and they made sure they could buy a little bit of time, but they kept their lives. That Ying might spell a little bit more trouble, especially in the hands of a hyper-aggressive player like Alamau with the potential cover that can come through from Lagonis or Neskin. It's always a concern for FURIA. They're going to have to be a little bit more static on this hold, and they're aware of that. It's just, can they take a bit of a chance here and try and bite before those worrisome candelas start popping off?
Yeah, Ying, Alamau. Big fan of this operator. I've seen him use it a couple of times over this week. Alamau relies very heavily, as we know, of just creating chaos. You know, whenever stuff is not going well for the enemy team, that's where he capitalizes. Yeah, he just comes in and picks up, 2Ks, 3Ks, 4Ks, whatever it is. Ying, very, very chaotic operator, can cause a lot of issues, and that suits him right down to a T. And it's not even as if it's, like, formulated to be a Ying push. He just plays it for himself.
Now, steady, and as you said, playing it for himself and droning his way ahead, but it's Levy that opens it up. The big spray caught the body on the top of Armory Stairs, and this is one of the things I was talking about before on the previous round, is for all the early work Team 1 were doing, FURIA were good at making sure they didn't suffer. Here, I think from a little combination of bad luck and potentially a pre-placed drone, they weren't quite able to get themselves out. There it is, Neskin rolled it through. They thought that they had a little bit more control, a little bit more time. Unfortunately, the man on the top of the tower disagreed with you, gone down, locked off the top of Armory, and that's going to put the rest of FURIA in a bit of a tricky situation, because now they know when push comes to shove, they have a disadvantage on this fight.
Yeah, and Team 1, I think, were looking for that opening pick. It's something that they struggled with in the last round. We're not ready to deal with a full 5v5 at 20 seconds to go, so yeah, this definitely spells a little bit better, I feel, for Team 1 in this scenario, and you can see FURIA perhaps trying to get a kill back. Landa trying his hand, thinking, should I peek, should I not peek? Rare? Ooh, I think he has an idea that somebody is there. Maybe he's seen something, but not enough to take a shot, not enough to try and find a kill. KDS, just waiting for anyone who wants to try and go for the creep, and oh, Rare, he's teasing us, Fluke, he really is.
He has been one of the players that's been able to sort of get back in a situation. The soft hatch means he has a rotate down as well. If he thinks that he's in too much of a troubled situation, he can take that as an option if he doesn't want to try and do the death dive all the way across the corridor. But Alamau is the one that finds the death in his hands. They have 50 seconds. They have 2 of these bodies, and they've been able to do that groundwork that they struggled with before. Look at this, though. It's that pressure all across. They've been able to dig their way underneath. They've been able to actually capitalize and limit the movement of the FURIA players. They still have themselves with these cross angles, but losing that first and the Candela start to rain through means that the danger is now on the remaining 2. Slipped all the way through. KDS picks up 1 more, knows where the last is, and makes sure it ends in a flawless.
Very, very dominant from Team 1. I just also want to highlight the kill that Alamau got. There is a player downstairs in server, which was rare. And Alamau repelled upside down on Big Window and shot him through the openings in the flooring that was made by FURIA. What a pick. And that really set off a chain reaction for Team 1. And you can see, Fluke, the difference. Whenever Team 1 have those early picks and they have more manpower, they just stomp into the bomb site and take everything for themselves.
Yeah, and as I said, like, that was almost in a weird way, the failed... if you're going to highlight the failures of Team 1, which, to be fair, this game have been rare, their first attack was not being able to catch those loose players. Here, you know, they had the body on the top of the tower to get the kill on Armory Stairs. They had that in position before they went for the kill. There, they sort of had Alamo that knew that the body was going to play it underneath for a long period of time, so they made sure that he could sort of work in the situation. They couldn't quite get the threats on those beforehand. Getting a handle, getting a catch from FURIA, it becomes tough because FURIA now has to play the game of how do we pull back? How do we have the safety? Hey, is this a Warden? Let's see how it goes.
It is an interesting pickup, but it's really one that's not going to help them. You know, what does Warden do in this scenario? Not a lot. Yeah, it's really, really difficult now to see FURIA pull back from this. They have to have 4 perfect rounds. Going for kids again. This, I feel, is more a story of you're against one player who is hitting every shot that you just cannot stop.
I mean, he's 16-2.
He's on an 8 KD.
He's having a good day. Would you go as far as say he's having a great day?
A phenomenal day.
On an 8 KD? Would you...
Like,
it's just ludicrous. It's so tough. And it's always that thing because you can set up however many holds, but if a player is having a great day or a great game, it's so tricky because there is no real response.
It throws every bit of analysis out the window.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we can sit here and speculate all we want, and we can sit and say, oh, this is why, oh, this is why. Whenever in reality, we have one guy going absolutely insane, and nobody can stop the man. That's your analysis, so thank you. I'll be going now.
It's been wonderful to have you. 6-2. One more round secures them the opener here, gives them a huge amount of momentum and energy heading into Cafe, a map that we sort of talked about, hoping that because FURIA picked it, that they have some surprises here, and, well, you hope that they also have a heck of a sort of getting their heads together and realizing what can we do to grow from a first map that hasn't gone their way. It's not over yet, but as KDS almost picks up an early fight of a body that slips all the way past, they've instantly gone for the response. There, Alamau's gone for the cover, finds it. Fantasy is off the board. A 5 versus 3 as they get rare on the pickup instantly too. The body on the top of White Stairs does not quite secure the kill. Doesn't want to try and risk it, and they'll be able to get the pickup. They still have a lot of time, and now they've been able to take 2 very early picks.
Yeah, 2 picks, and we know that's going to be a great thing for Team 1 as they set up with their final execute. Still a minute to go, and another one falls. Levy having the cover as highs was after that down player, but instead himself gets taken out. And now a 2 versus 5 Landon Miracle. Will they need a miracle in this scenario? I'd be very surprised if we see them pull away this round as Team 1 are breathing down their necks, and Lagones and Alamau rushing. Alamau, another phenomenal round to clean it up. A 7-2 sweep for Team 1.
It was just a terrifying performance. It was a terrifying performance, and it's one of those tough things where you go, how do we actualize this? How do we realize this? How do we get a response to a team that is playing that good, to a player that almost went 20-2, that almost had a 10 KD? And it's just unreal.